me and Eddie really did not get along.
In real life?
In real life.
I did not know this.
Yeah. Like
okay.
we didn't get. But every single week before taping, we'd come together, we'd put our hands together, we'd bow, and we'd pray before we go out there.
Two men who couldn't even stand each other still bowed their heads to pray before stepping onto the battlefield every week. For 4 straight years, Malcolm-Jamal Warner and Eddie Griffin buried their beef to fight a war that most folks had no clue was even happening. Eddie Griffin has been calling out Hollywood for years, loudly. He's been warning people that there's a quiet war going on, a war against strong black men who don't play the puppet role. And he didn't just talk the talk, he walked it.
Whatever happened to integrity, man, huh? How many brothers gotta wear?
Eddie once claimed there was a whole plan to break black men down, to strip away their strength and voice. He called it the systematic emasculation program. But even with all his bold predictions, nothing could have prepared him for what went down with his former co-star. On July 20th, 2025, when Eddie heard Malcolm-Jamal Warner had passed, he didn't drop some sad cookie-cutter RIP message.
Actor Malcolm-Jamal Warner, widely known for starring in the hit TV sitcom The Cosby Show, has died.
Nope, he lit up Instagram with a post that hit like a thunderclap. He wrote, "My heart is heavy today. For what the world lost was a father, a son, a poet, a musician, an actor, a teacher, a writer, a director, a friend, a warrior that I had the pleasure of going to war with against the Hollywood machine, and sometimes with each other, because that's what brothers do. But the love was and is always there." Eddie didn't say they worked in Hollywood. He said they went to war against it. That ain't showbiz lingo. That's battlefield talk. That's what you say when someone falls fighting a real enemy. Their war kicked off during the filming of Malcolm and Eddie, when both men believed they were stepping into something major, something meant to uplift and empower black voices. What they thought was a show turned out to be a war zone. Every single script, a battle, every episode, a fight for dignity. Malcolm and Eddie weren't just acting, they were pushing back against a system that wanted them to perform like trained monkeys, plain and simple.
So it was, for me, it was like going from a top university to junior college. Because I'm saying, look, we can actually be funny without doing the stereotypical stuff. And no one was really interested in that route. They're like, we didn't bring you over here for that. This is what we do.
This wasn't about creative disagreements. Malcolm was describing psychological warfare. They took America's favorite TV son, the kid who grew up on The Cosby Show, and tried to twist him into a clown for their own amusement. And when he said no, the machine came for him.
Even though we were at odds, what we both understood is we get to 100 episodes, we're going to have a sweet vacation deal. Ultimately, they cut us at 88. Because they were tired. They were tired of me fighting with the writers, and then they were tired of Eddie's shenanigans.
They got 88 episodes in, just 12 shy of hitting that syndication magic number. That's the mark where real money starts flowing in, the kind that sets up your kids and grandkids. But the show got pulled right before that could happen. Why? Because Malcolm and Eddie refused to stay in their place. They weren't playing the game, and the machine doesn't like rebels. See, it's not just about your image in Hollywood. They control your bag, your legacy, your shot at real independence. That's when both men realized what the rules really were. You're allowed to fight, but you'll never be allowed to win. You can stand your ground, but the system will always come at you harder, with bigger weapons. And if you start becoming a threat, if you start waking people up, the machine has one final move, and it's brutal. Eddie Griffin's been ringing the alarm for years about how Hollywood targets strong black men. His comedy specials weren't just punchlines. They were coded messages, survival tips from behind enemy lines. He exposed what he called the emasculation campaign. He pointed out how nearly every major black male star has been made to wear a dress on screen. That's not random. It's a pattern. It's programming. Break down their masculinity, get them to perform humiliation, then throw money and awards at them like treats. But Eddie's darkest warning, it came when he brought up Bill Cosby. Way before the headlines blew up, Eddie Griffin was already sounding the alarm, saying straight up that no black entertainer gets to walk out of Hollywood with their dignity untouched. And this wasn't some wild theory. Eddie wasn't guessing. He was reading straight from the industry's dirty playbook. If Michael Jackson, Bill Cosby, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Every time a black man rose up with real power and independence, a scandal conveniently followed. And the timing, never random, always strategic.
Reason number one, why they came after Bill Cosby.
Black man does something, it says, John Jones, black list, said black, black, black. Now, if a white man does it, it isn't white man Jones, it's just a man.
Eddie was calling out how the media runs a double standard. When white celebrities mess up, they're seen as individuals. Oh, he made a mistake. But when a black star stumbles, suddenly they're used to confirm every ugly stereotype. That's not journalism. That's psychological warfare designed to keep black talent scared and obedient. But Malcolm-Jamal Warner, he stopped being scared. And that's when the machine shifted gears into its final ruthless phase. Something flipped in Malcolm that last year. The same man who used to carefully tiptoe through Hollywood politics suddenly started going off script, bold and unfiltered. His Instagram, it wasn't just social media anymore. It turned into a full-blown weapon against the same brainwashing Eddie had been exposing for years.
I am tired of running for shade. And aren't you tired of being hustled and played? And aren't we all tired of crying about how hard it is to be black in America, even if it looks like we've got it made?
And this wasn't abstract poetry. Malcolm was calling it out by name. He blasted the system for feeding poison through music, shows, and culture, telling the world that the entertainment industry was deliberately pushing degrading content to keep black audiences locked in a cycle. He said those traits weren't ours. They were assigned to us by the same people pulling the strings. He wasn't afraid to name names. He was calling out the puppet masters, right when Hollywood was already under fire. Diddy facing federal charges, Epstein's web of secrets unraveling, major power players getting dragged into court, and right in the middle of it all, Malcolm-Jamal Warner, standing tall like a witness to decades of psychological warfare, just when they least needed one more voice telling the truth. His final video said it all. Malcolm-Jamal Warner looked like a man who knew his clock was ticking.
You know, life is out here lifing, right? For me and for everybody else. But just wanted to remind you, as I remind myself, that no matter what's going on, there's always a reason to smile.
He spoke with that forced smile, pushing out positivity like he was trying to convince himself more than anyone else. He promised, "I'll be back soon," but you could feel it in his eyes. This was a goodbye masked as a check-in. 3 days later, he was gone, found dead in the waters off Costa Rica. Official cause, accidental drowning, no witnesses, no signs of foul play, just another tragic loss wrapped up in silence. But for those paying attention, it felt like more than just a freak accident. It felt like the system had claimed another truth teller who'd become too loud, too bold, too dangerous. Eddie Griffin had warned us. He said black entertainers never get to walk away clean. That wasn't just a hunch, it was a pattern. And now that pattern had swallowed his friend. Eddie wasn't blindly defending Bill Cosby, he was dissecting a method, a strategy, a playbook designed to destroy powerful black men once they stepped out of line, once they stopped being useful and started getting independent. In one jaw-dropping interview, Eddie broke it down piece by piece. He walked through the Cosby scandal, showing how the accusations didn't pop up randomly. They came right when Cosby was trying to make big moves like buying NBC and reclaiming his creative control. Eddie questioned the whole setup. Why would so many women willingly go alone into private hotel rooms with a married man whose wholesome family image was known worldwide? And why wait 30 years to say something? He wasn't dismissing the pain. He was questioning the timing. But the real stinger, Eddie connected it all to something way bigger, a systematic operation to destroy powerful black men, right at the moment they're ready to own their legacy. Eddie wasn't fixated on whether Bill Cosby was guilty or not. That wasn't the point. What he was really exposing was how the entertainment machine runs coordinated smear campaigns, precision strikes against black entertainers who get too rich, too powerful, or too outspoken about racial injustice. That 30-year delay on the Cosby accusations, Eddie said that was no accident. It guaranteed the claims would be past the statute of limitations, meaning no court trial, no defense, no justice, just maximum public humiliation with zero legal resolution. And this pattern is like clockwork. Michael Jackson died right before a massive comeback that would have given him full control over his catalog and legacy. Prince, He died while battling for his masters, his life's work. Whitney Houston, her death hit while the world was finally waking up to her pain and the industry's role in it. Then there's Malcolm-Jamal Warner, a man too beloved for the usual character attacks. So instead, he dies alone in a Costa Rican accidental drowning, just when he was finally stepping into his most powerful role, an outspoken voice against the entertainment industry's psychological warfare on Black America. But Eddie saw this coming. He's been calling out the playbook for years, warning that when reputation smears don't work, the machine always has one final solution ready. Malcolm was building something real, something dangerous to the system. His podcast, Not All Hood, wasn't just talk. It was a challenge to every stereotype the industry cashes in on. He was using his platform to tear down the fake images and expose the truth. His Instagram poetry, pure fire. It hit like a wake-up call, echoing everything Eddie had been yelling from the sidelines. And his interviews, they connected the dots, linking racism and entertainment to the bigger web of systemic oppression. The real threat, he wasn't just anybody. He was Theo Huxtable, a face people loved and trusted. And now he was using that credibility to pull the curtain back on Hollywood's darkest secrets. You can't take down America's favorite TV son with the usual playbook. Smear campaigns, not enough. Blacklisting won't cut it. Malcolm-Jamal Warner had too much credibility, too many fans, and too many industry connections. So when all the old tricks failed, the machine went into its most dangerous phase. Just 3 days after Malcolm's body was found floating off the coast of Costa Rica, Eddie Griffin dropped a tribute, and it sent shockwaves through anyone who'd been paying attention. But it wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. He wrote, "My heart is heavy today, for what the world lost was a father, a son, a poet, a musician, an actor, a teacher, a writer, a director, a friend, a warrior that I had the pleasure of going to war with against the Hollywood machine, and sometimes with each other, because that's what brothers do. But the love was and is always there." That wasn't just mourning, it was a coded message. Every word dripped with military language. He didn't call Malcolm a co-star, he called him a warrior. They didn't work in Hollywood, they fought the Hollywood machine. That's the same term activists use when they talk about systems of oppression. Eddie wasn't just grieving, he was confirming what conspiracy theorists had been whispering for years. Malcolm died in the middle of a fight. And the timing of Eddie's post, that's what made people stop and think. Most celebrity tributes are polished, drafted with PR teams, and posted hours or even days later. But Eddie, he dropped his raw, unfiltered message instantly, like a man who had been bracing for this moment, like someone who knew this call was coming. In his final stretch, Malcolm stopped being strategic. He wasn't playing chess anymore. He was going all in, fighting on every front. His podcast, Not All Hood, tore into stereotypes. His Instagram turned into a digital battlefield filled with poetry that cut through the noise and exposed the psychological traps planted by the entertainment world.
An artist, to be a conscious artist of color, you're constantly having to pick your battles. And, at some point you have to, really decide what your boundaries are. What are the things that you undoubtedly stand for.
And most dangerously, he was connecting all the dots, linking the industry's dark secrets to the bigger machine of racial oppression, and doing it with the voice, face, and legacy of Theo Huxtable. Malcolm-Jamal Warner didn't just start speaking up, he crossed a line. He went from carefully managed resistance to full-blown truth-telling. And Eddie Griffin's emotional tribute made one thing loud and clear. The machine responded exactly how Eddie had warned it would. To really understand why Malcolm took that turn, you have to know about Michelle Thomas. Her death in 1998 didn't just break Malcolm's heart, it reshaped the entire course of his life for the next 27 years. Michelle wasn't some Hollywood fling, she was his co-star, his anchor, and after her passing, his spiritual compass. Michelle Thomas played Justine Phillips, Theo Huxtable's smart and loving girlfriend on The Cosby Show. But off-screen, the love between Malcolm and Michelle ran deeper than any scripted romance. Michelle was born in Boston to Caribbean immigrant parents who raised her with firm values and unshakable purpose. She stepped into Hollywood with her head high and her standards even higher. In a town that constantly tries to chip away at young black women, Michelle held her ground. While others were being pressured into compromising roles or shady deals, Michelle stayed true to herself. She chose roles with intention, spoke up about how black women were portrayed, and made sure her image reflected her values, not the industry's demands. And Malcolm, he didn't just fall for her looks, he fell for that unbreakable spirit. In a place where people bend for fame, Michelle stood tall. She was proof that you could navigate the game without selling your soul. She became Malcolm's moral blueprint. Their 5-year relationship was more than love. It was a lesson in how to move with purpose and stay rooted in truth. Michelle wasn't just his partner. She was his light, and after she passed, that light never left him. It guided every move he made, even as he stepped deeper into war with the machine. When cancer hit Michelle Thomas at just 28, she faced it the same way she lived, fearless, clear-minded, and grounded in truth. Even in her final months, she refused to let fear, anger, or regret take hold. She called it the highest choice, choosing peace over pain. And Malcolm-Jamal Warner, he was right there, holding her hand through it all. When Michelle took her last breath, Malcolm didn't just stand at her side, he climbed into the hospital bed to hold her as she passed. That wasn't a Hollywood heartbreak story. That was raw, real love. He didn't just lose a partner, he lost the one person who kept his spirit anchored in a business built to tear it apart. For 27 years after her death, Michelle stayed with him, not in memory, but as his moral Jeep. Every move he made, every role he took, every word he spoke in public, he ran it through one filter. What would Michelle do? And that wasn't just romantic reflection, it was survival. In an industry that chews up and rewires black talent, Michelle's presence helped him stay whole. But then something shifted. In his final year, Malcolm stopped playing it safe. The man who'd mastered the art of quiet resistance suddenly dropped the mask. His final posts on Instagram, where he wrote about being tired of running for shade, weren't just poetic, they were battle cries. Malcolm had stopped balancing. He stopped compromising. He was speaking freely now, the way Michelle always had. This wasn't some meltdown. This was Malcolm finally stepping fully into the light Michelle had kept alive in him. He wasn't filtering his truth anymore, he was living it. And in doing that, he became something the machine couldn't control. Michelle had once been too pure for Hollywood to bend. And now Malcolm, walking in her footsteps, had become too dangerous for them to tolerate. He had made the highest choice: speak truth, no matter the price. And Eddie Griffin knew exactly what that price was. His tribute wasn't just grief, it was a report, a final dispatch from the battlefield. Because Eddie wasn't just losing a friend, he was watching the system do what it always does to those who get too real. So when people started questioning Malcolm's so-called accidental drowning, that wasn't paranoia, that was pattern recognition. In an industry where Diddy's facing federal heat for years of abuse, where Epstein's web still snakes through elite entertainment circles, and where long-hidden corruption is finally bubbling to the surface, Malcolm's death didn't feel random, it felt strategic. The death of a man like Malcolm-Jamal Warner, that's never just an accident. He didn't drown by chance in some peaceful Costa Rican waters. He was eliminated because he'd become too loud, too fearless, too much of a threat to the machine that's been running unchecked for decades. He and Eddie Griffin had been in the trenches for years, fighting a war most people didn't even know was happening. But Malcolm, he started dropping truth bombs everywhere. His Instagram poetry broke down psychological warfare, his podcast shattered racial stereotypes, and his interviews linked entertainment racism to a much bigger system of oppression. That kind of truth, it doesn't just make people uncomfortable, it shakes the whole foundation. The machine thrives on controlling narratives, and Malcolm was challenging that control head on. He wasn't asking for permission anymore. He was calling out the lies, naming names, and waking people up. Eddie Griffin's raw, unfiltered tribute wasn't just a goodbye. It was a war report. By calling Malcolm a warrior who fought the Hollywood machine, Eddie confirmed what so many had been whispering. The war is real. The casualties, they're stacking up, and the system will erase anyone who tries to break their grip on black minds and black stories. In the end, Malcolm-Jamal Warner didn't just prove Eddie's theory, he embodied it. In Hollywood's quiet war against conscious black entertainers, Nobody gets to leave untouched. And the ones who won't be silenced, they don't get to leave at all. The machine claimed another warrior, but Eddie made sure Malcolm didn't go quietly. His message ensures that Malcolm's death won't be ignored. It won't be chalked up to just another tragic loss. It was a strike, a deliberate one. If you felt this, make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video with someone who needs to hear the real. We're not done exposing the truth. See you on the next one. Stay sharp, stay woke,